USAA knows dynamic duos can save the day, like superheroes and sidekicks or auto and home insurance. With USAA, you can bundle your auto and home and save up to 10%. Learn more and get a quote at USAA.com/bundle. Restrictions apply.
The First Lady of New York Radio, Joan Hamburg. Entertaining and informative. Talk Radio 77 WABC.
Always a good day at ABC when Sam Sifton comes over to visit. And Sam, the assistant managing editor of The Times, covers culture, lifestyle, everything. He's one of my favorites, and he's a superb writer. Founding editor of New York Times Cooking, which has become a Bible for a lot of us. And lucky for my family, because this man knows how to cook and has great recipes. Sam has been the food editor, the culture editor, the national editor. He was a restaurant critic, wrote a column, is having a great adventure through Foodland. And I take it all is well, and you're cooking and eating and sharing with all the rest of us?
All is well, Joan. Cooking up a storm, getting ready for the Super Bowl, having a great old time here at the New York Times.
And what do you guys do for the Super Bowl?
Oh, I like to put out a pretty big spread. I'll make some nachos. I'll stuff some jalapenos. I'll make some ribs, maybe a vat of chili. It's not that the game isn't important. What's important is having this feast.
It's so funny. It's true. That's what the Super Bowl, even people like me who are not necessarily big fans, but it's the table, the food, the making everyone say, gosh, this is delicious, or more.
That's right. Even if my family is only going to watch the halftime show and the commercials, at least they'll enjoy themselves with the nachos, with the ribs, with the chili.
I know yours sounds better than mine. I always make the same thing forever. I make hot dogs and beans baked with maple syrup, little ketchup, mustard, until I just put them in the hottest oven until the hot dogs pop. You know, they sort of just split. And that's been Super Bowl.
I got to say, that sounds amazing. I haven't done that in ages. Hot dogs and beans. That's a classic.
But you've got to put the maple syrup and the mustard and the ketchup and mix it all up and then bake it in the hottest oven until the hot dogs burst, you know. And that is good food.
Oh, I love it. That sounds great. I bet you could do that with like kielbasa as well. Or you could,
delicious.
You could put some breadcrumbs on the top for a little crunchy crunch. Sounds great.
Wow.
I'd eat that with a big glass of milk. That sounds terrific.
Or a big glass of beer, depending upon how the game is going.
That's correct.
Now, do you have a lot of company for something like Super Bowl?
I actually usually just watch with the family. I like to put out a big spread and just get my kids, my wife, maybe my brother and his kids. This year, I think I'm traveling to watch the game with friends, so that's going to be interesting. What do they do? What do they cook? Or are they going to ask me to cook? I hope they do. And we'll see.
Would they? That's an interesting thing. It's like having a doctor come for dinner. You know, I mean, when we used to take listeners all over the world, and one of the listeners was a doctor one year, and he begged me not to tell anyone he was a doctor. He said, my trip will be ruined. And I understood. You know, you've got a doctor on board. Oh, doctor, this hurts, that hurts. And you must get the same thing with food or a recipe or something else. Do your friends ask you to cook when they invite you over and you don't mind?
I mean, a lot of cooks are secretly control freaks. They like to be able to be in control of their kitchen circumstance. So I'm always happy when someone asks me to cook because I love to do it. I love the challenge of cooking in someone else's kitchen with someone else's materials and mastering their terrible knives and warped cutting boards and the like. And it's a challenge for me, and I enjoy it. The tough thing I got to tell you about being in my shoes is not cooking for other people. It's the restaurant recommendations. And now as we come into Valentine's Day and my phone starts blowing up with texts from the bad husbands who haven't made reservations and who are asking me like, what's a great restaurant where I can get a reservation on Valentine's Day? And I just think like,
forget it.
Guys, come on. Come on. You're too late. You're too late. Cook your Valentine's meal.
And that would probably be a wonderful surprise for a lot of people. Right? And the truth is, on holidays like Mother's Day, Valentine's Day, whatever, my kids call them fake holidays because they forget them most of the time. But, you are much better off avoiding a really crowded restaurant. And it could be even something simple. I've suddenly started to crave meatloaf. Maybe because we had a few cold days. That wouldn't be my food of choice, but I'm thinking about, I think I have to have meatloaf.
Well, that's fantastic.
Like a comfort food.
I endorse that heartily, although I've never really thought of meatloaf as a particularly romantic dish.
Not at all.
It certainly could be, because anything made with love is romantic.
Right, and it's a cozy food.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's comfortable.
Do you glaze your meatloaf, Joan?
I do.
Do you use ketchup as you do with
I
the beans?
do. I do ketchup and a little brown sugar. Just a little, because you don't want to oversweeten it, and you can add a dab of Dijon mustard to it, just a little, and I brush it on the top. Excellent. And sometimes, and the funny thing is, I was looking through recipes, and I saw it there, Lipton onion soup, I'm embarrassed to say. I put a packet of that in the meatloaf mixture.
Wow, we are going. This is the Wayback Machine on the Joan Hamburg Show today.
Exactly.
These are all old classics of American cooking, using these store-bought condiments and soup mixes to amp the flavor of the food. And I'm not against it. It's a kind of it's a retro feel this year. I like it.
I grew up with it, and when I was a kid, one of my first jobs was writing for Campbell's Soup. So,
really?
Yeah, and we had a test kitchen. I was at an agency called BVD&O, and you wouldn't believe the amazing things that came out of that kitchen using soup.
Oh, sure, because you had that concentrated, like, cream of celery and cream of mushroom and all those things that can amp things up. Which we now think of, when we think of like Minnesota hot dish and stuff like that, those casseroles that are thickened and flavored with concentrated soup. Wow.
Right.
What was the craziest thing that you came up with?
Oh my gosh. And the worst, Sam? I used to think we had the whole test kitchen with great home economists and everything. I used to think I invented it. Because we spent so much time creating it. No, we did nothing that crazy, but we cooked a lot with it. And pot pies with whipped potato crust, and the base would be a cream of soup, and amazing. You would mix it either with a broth or milk or something like that. It was you put the leftover whatever. Very rich. And then, coming of age, and my kids horrified that I would use one of those things instead of making a stock or something that would fit in there. You know, they became purists.
Yeah, well, we returned to cooking. All those canned goods were designed to help us come out of the war years and into the American prosperity of the 1950s, and women going into the workforce and not having the time to cook and not having the will to cook, and men, of course, being useless on that front. And so easy just to tip a can of soup into the casserole and thicken it up rather than making a roux or making a broth and a roux and the like. But now, you know, the tide has turned and we're coming back to the kitchen. And we've come back to the kitchen hard since the pandemic. And people are taking pride in the food that they're cooking. They're also mindful of what food goes into their bodies, and they're, you know, those soups, delicious as they are packed with salt, right? And other things. So people want to have a little more control over what they cook and what they eat. And they take pride in it.
Now, it is interesting. Yeah, a lot of progress. I remember when I first got married, my husband loved corned beef hash, and I was going to surprise him. And I boiled corned beef. You don't know. I made myself crazy. The kitchen looked like a bomb exploded. And I served it with pride. And he said, well, where's the corned beef hash? I said, look at this creation. And he said, no, you don't get it. It comes in a can. And you put it in the refrigerator, and then you slice it cold and fry it. You don't make it from fresh corned beef. He liked, you know, what he grew up with, the canned stuff.
That's fantastic. Now I've had canned corned beef hash, but
broadcast canned.
I did not know of that technique of getting it cold so you can slice it and fry it. That's kind of genius. I'd like to reverse engineer that next time I make corned beef and then make corned beef hash with the leftovers. I'd like to kind of roll it into a log and get it cold, slice it, and fry it. I bet that would be good with a fried egg.
It sounds delicious with fried eggs. Or you could probably, you know, brown it a little and then put it in the oven and bake it after a few minutes. Whatever it is, it works, you know, and it's easy.
That sounds delicious.
But, you know, because of what you're doing, you've created a whole thing. My kids both cook, and they will cook. Even if my daughter is home working or alone, she'll cook. And thanks to what you write every week, it's fun to read, and they're all using it. So you've done a great service.
Thank you, Joan. I'm proud to have done so, and I'm happy to help where I can. The whole point of New York Times Cooking is just to make food approachable to people, to offer our subscribers the confidence that they need in order to take on cooking tasks that might have been daunting in the past, but that we can kind of talk them through and get them to put delicious food on the table for their family, for their friends, and it's a real privilege to be able to do that. It's really exciting.
Well, you do it, and you write so wonderfully well. I can't wait to make the garlic shrimp. That sounds so delicious, and you say they're easy to make.
Oh yeah, simple. The only thing you got to be careful with cooking shrimp is overcooking them. You don't, they get rubbery, and you don't want that. So doing those, it's such a lovely, lovely recipe that the guy has got, and just pull them off the heat 30 seconds before you think you ought to, and you'll have them perfectly cooked, and it'll be delicious.
And what about your turkey meatballs? We do a lot of turkey meatballs, but yours...
Love a turkey meatball.
But you roast it, is that right? With scallion and mozzarella and a little jalapeno?
Exactly. And you love the acidity that you get from the scallion, the bite from the jalapeno, the mozzarella that helps keep everything moist. This turkey is, of course, a little dry or can be a little dry, so you got to be careful there. And boy, howdy, as they used to say, that's a delicious meatball.
Yeah, no, and then, the other day I went over to the Singapore market, the market that opened in the West 50s.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm talking about? And they have stalls all over. And they had, the big thing they had was curries, Asian curries with chicken and rice.
Yeah.
And then you were talking about Kay Chun's recipe, one pot with curry with chicken.
Oh yeah, that's a really nice one. The one pot recipes really come in handy for weeknight cooking. And Kay is a marvelous recipe developer. We're really excited to work with, and that's a terrific dish. Those Hawker Center curries, though, oh boy, that's a lifetime of experience for each one of those cooks that goes into every bowl that they serve. It's a really lovely place to eat.
No, it was a lot of fun. And did you ever try the soup? I tried that. I don't know what kind of soup it was. They didn't say, but you had a choice of dumplings, like 5 different kinds: teriyaki, chicken, shrimp, pork. And they did it with bok choy or rice noodle or egg noodle. That was so good on a cold day.
Oh yeah,
really.
And it's all in that broth, all in that rich, delicious, long simmered broth. It's pretty fun to eat in the winter.
I love that. But what is that a broth based on chicken or bones or necks?
Yeah. It's chicken. And, I don't know the secret recipe styling of it, but it's so deep in flavor that I gotta think that they roast the bones to, create some fond in there, and then just tick, tick, tick on low heat for a long time, not boiling it excessively, right? Because if you boil a stock with bones, it'll get cloudy and milky, and sometimes you don't get that pure clarity of flavor that you get with a low simmer. And I detect the low simmer.
Yeah. And let me, before I let you go, ask you about ribs. If you're going to make ribs for Super Bowl, and I noticed the supermarkets are filled with ribs right now, what do you do? Do you glaze them first? Do you bake them? What's the simplest way? You're not going to be outside.
Yeah, the simplest way in the New York metropolitan region in wintertime, when we're not going to be outside cooking over live fire, is to use the oven. And I glaze at the end, not at the beginning, because glazes often contain sugars, and the sugars are prone to burning over a long period of time. So I kind of go low and slow in the oven. I sometimes, more than sometimes, wrap the ribs in foil so that it creates a little steam in there, and it softens them up pretty quickly. And then after, let's say we're cooking baby back ribs, after an hour and a half, take them out of the foil packet and begin to glaze them every 15 minutes or so, again in like a 250, 275 oven, until they get all lacquered and amazing. Now, Eric Kim, one of my colleagues at New York Times Cooking, just published a terrific recipe for glazed ribs that involves, just to bring us back to the beginning where we started talking about using kind of store-bought creations like soups and soup mixes and the like. His recipe uses grape jelly to help create the glaze for his ribs. And I got to tell you, Joan, they are really
delish.
Yeah, that recipe by Eric Kim, New York Times Cooking. Got to check it out.
I will, because I haven't thought of grape jelly since I was a kid.
Yeah.
It was a staple at home, but that's long gone. It's interesting.
It's grape jelly, a little rice vinegar, some soy sauce together. You get this kind of, it's like a sweet and sour situation. Very good.
And one more question. I clipped a recipe, and I think it was yours, a while ago with putting mayonnaise on chicken, and I thought, could that be? Could it be?
Yes,
Is that delicious?
It can. That's actually a Kenji Lopez Alt recipe. I've used it myself a gajillion times. Mayonnaise is just fat, right? It's emulsified oil with egg yolk, and when you put it on to a piece of chicken, it helps create just an incredible. It's self-basting essentially. So it's really good for keeping things from drying out. I actually use mayonnaise, and here's the craziest way I use mayonnaise, is sometimes when I'm making pizza and I'm cooking in a very, very hot oven, and I want to put shrimp on the pizza or lobster on the pizza, call me crazy, because shrimp overcooks so easily, as we discussed earlier, and because you have to kind of par cook lobster in order to get it out of its shell, it too can overcook in the oven. So I toss it in a little mayonnaise before putting it onto the pizza, and it protects it and moistens it and makes it so delicious. So using mayonnaise outside of chicken salad is a good idea. It's a good marinade.
Right. And should people, I had a listener who said she was concerned now about chicken because of all the stuff about chicken sickness, chicken virus. Is that a concern?
Flu.
Yeah.
It isn't. That avian flu is really bad for birds, but it's not so bad for us.
Human.
And it hasn't, we may see shortages of poultry as a result of avian flu, but we're not going to see poisoned meats coming into our stores.
Okay. Very reassuring. Thank you, Sam Sifton. Enjoy the game with your family, and I look forward to talking to you very soon. Take care.
Thank you, Joan. Thanks. It's always a pleasure. Thanks so much.
Bye-bye, Sam. I'm
Bye.
Joan Hamburg. Bye. And you're listening to WABC. We have much more to come. And if you haven't read him in the New York Times, you've got to. I mean, it will change the way you live. I can't tell you how many people wait for all his recipes and then call or talk about it or schedule dinner around it. He's one of the best food people. All right, everyone. I'm Joan Hamburg, and you are listening to your favorite radio station, WABC.